In the heart of Sunnyvale, a town where even the squirrels were tiny boadies, lived Professor Pigeon. He wasn't just any pigeon. He had a monocle perched precariously over one beady eye, a tweed waistcoat that was a little too tight, and a dream bigger than his entire bird brain. He believed, with every fiber of his feathery being, that he could teach human children to fly. But how do you teach someone without wings to soar through the sky? That was the million-dollar question, and Phileas was about to answer it in the most peculiar way possible. One sunny morning, the town square was abuzz. A giant banner, messily painted with berry juice, hung between two lampposts. It read, "Professor Pigeon's prestigious flying school. Enroll today, soar tomorrow." Below it, Phileas stood proudly on a podium made of stacked bread loaves. His chest puffed out, he cooed, "Are you tired of walking? Do you gaze at the clouds with longing in your hearts? Fear not. For I, Professor Phileas Pigeon, shall unlock your aerial potential." A small group of kids had gathered, their faces a mixture of confusion and pure, unadulterated curiosity. He was a talking pigeon in a waistcoat, after all. This was already the best thing to happen all week. The first lesson was held in the park. My first student, a plucky young girl named Lily with pigtails that bounced when she laughed, looked at me expectantly. "All right, recruits," I announced, strutting back and forth. Lesson 1, the fundamental flap. I demonstrated, flapping my wings with practiced ease. "Now you try, arms out, nice and wide. Feel the wind, become the wind." Lily and the other kids started flapping their arms furiously. They looked like a flock of frantic flamingos, but their faces were lit with pure joy. They weren't flying, not even close, but they were laughing so hard they nearly fell over. Is flapping your arms the secret to flight, or is there something more? Well, we were about to find out, because lesson 2 was even stranger. A pilot is nothing without their gear, I declared, pulling a large sack towards me. "Behold, the official uniform of the prestigious Pigeon Flying School." I pulled out a collection of bicycle helmets, each one covered and hastily glued on feathers of all colors. One even had a long, majestic peacock feather sticking straight up. The kids gasped in delight. "These aren't just helmets," I explained with a wink. "They are ... aerodynamic cranial enhancers. They help you think like a bird." Lily chose a helmet covered in bright blue jay feathers and put it on. It wobbled slightly, but she beamed, her eyes shining. She looked up at the sky, then at me, a determined little smile on her face. With their feathered heads, they certainly looked more like birds, but would it be enough to get them off the ground? Next came the most crucial part of any aviator's training, the mid-flight snack. You can't soar on an empty stomach. I chirped, tossing a small bag to each student. They opened them to find ... sunflower seeds. "These are high-energy avian fuel pods." I explained, "The trick is to toss one into the air and catch it in your mouth while maintaining your fundamental flap. It requires focus, precision, and a complete disregard for what anyone else thinks." I demonstrated tossing a seed high and catching it with a satisfying plink. The park was soon filled with the sight of feather-helmeted children flapping their arms and trying to catch sunflower seeds in their mouths. More seeds ended up on the grass than in anyone's stomach, but the laughter was unstoppable. We weren't just a flying school, we were a spectacle. But as the sun began to dip lower, a shadow of doubt crossed Lily's face. "Professor," she said, her flapping slowing down. "We've flapped, we've got the helmets, and we've eaten the seeds. But we're still on the ground." She looked so disappointed, my little bird heart ached. The other kids stopped too, their own smiles fading. Was my school a failure? Was I just a silly bird with an even sillier waistcoat? I looked at their hopeful faces, their feathered helmets askew, and knew I couldn't give up. The most important lesson was yet to come, but would they even believe me after a whole day of staying firmly on the ground? I flew up and landed softly on Lily's shoulder. She looked surprised. My dear aviator, I cooed gently. You have been flying all day? She looked at me, confused. But my feet haven't left the grass. I shook my head, my monocle wobbling. Flying isn't just about your body, Lily. It's about your spirit. Look around. She did. She saw her friends, still giggling as they tried to peck seeds off the ground. She saw the mess of feathers and helmets. She looked at her own arms, tired from flapping. Today, I continued, you let your imagination soar. You weren't afraid to look silly. You chased a dream with all your heart. That feeling, that lightness in your chest when you were laughing so hard you couldn't breathe. That, my dear Lily, is what it truly feels like to fly. A huge grin spread across Lily's face. She understood. She hadn't lifted off the ground, but she felt lighter than air. She started flapping again, not to fly, but just for the fun of it. The other kids saw her and joined in, their laughter echoing through the park as the sun set. They were a flock, my flock. They were running and leaping, their feathered helmets silhouetted against the orange sky. They jumped off benches, flapping wildly for a glorious second before landing in heaps of giggles. They weren't flying, but they were soaring. Is it possible that the greatest journeys don't involve leaving the ground at all, but rather letting your heart take flight? From that day on, Professor Pigeon's flying school became the most popular club in Sunnyvale. Kids would show up every week to flap, wear their feathered helmets, and try to catch sunflower seeds. No one ever actually learned to fly through the air, but that didn't matter. They learned to be brave, to be silly, and to believe in the most wonderfully absurd things. They learned that the first step to soaring high isn't about having wings, but about believing you can. And as I watched them, my chest swelled with pride. Maybe I was just a silly pigeon with a whisket, but I had taught them the most important lesson of all. So, whenever you see a bird in the sky, remember Professor Phileas Pigeon and his flock of flightless, fearless flyers. Remember that your biggest dreams might seem a little silly, but that's okay. The most important thing is to chase them with all your heart, a few good friends, and maybe a pocket full of sunflower seeds. Because believing in yourself is the only wind you truly need to lift your spirit off the ground. Thank you for joining our little adventure today. Don't forget to flap on over to that subscribe button and give it a peck so you don't miss our next story. Good night, little one.